Hey there, guys. Welcome back to Cyber US History. So this week, we're going to continue to look at World War One. Going back to last week, you guys studied about the general causes of the war itself. If you remember the acronym MAIN: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Those were the general causes over in Europe. And then you also looked at how the U.S. eventually got drawn in, and mainly it was from the freedom of the seas aspect. Many of our ships were being sank, one being the Lusitania, by the Germans, and ultimately it forces President Wilson, not Roosevelt, President Wilson's hand into going to Congress and asking for declaration of war. So today we're going to look at two different aspects of the war itself, one being the home front here at home, some different acts that were passed, and then also looking at the weapons of World War One. If you've never studied World War One or you haven't seen any of the Hollywood films, it is a very, very deadly war. 40 million people died. Depending on what they calculate into that number may vary at times. But one of the main reasons was we are still fighting the old style way of fighting in the Civil War, where we line up and shoot at each other, but only now they're digging trenches. But if you throw on top of that new advancements in technology, what we end up having is things like gas for the first time, flamethrowers for the first time, tanks for the first time, airplanes being used for the first time in war. And so that leads to the carnage of this war. Keep in mind, here at home, Americans had a very favorable view of war, as you know, from the Spanish-American War. So there was this patriotic feeling of sending our troops over to fight, and then the reality when they come back home. And the effects of World War One can still be felt today. We're going to go through that the next time we meet. But for this time around, I really want you to dive deep into the weapons. It's a weird thing to study, I get that. But for World War One, it's something that we should study to understand why it was such a deadly war, and why it led to things like plastic surgery for the first time when troops were coming home maimed from this war. So it really does change our view. So in any event, real simple this week, all you need to do is look at number one, the different weapons. You'll see a PDF that gives a description of the different weapons being used during World War One. And then you're going to do an analysis, choose one that you think had the biggest impact. There's no right or wrong answer, but justify your answer there. And there's a few other questions about trenches in there as well. After that, you're going to look at some of the acts passed here at home during the war on the home front, things like the Selective Service Act, so the draft, right? Guys were drafted to go fight. They were forced to go over and fight. The War Industries Board, the Sale of Liberty Bonds, the Espionage Act, the Sedition Act, all these things that were passed during World War One really changed society here at home. So you're going to take a look at that as well this week. So simple, 2 assignments. We're getting close to Thanksgiving. This will be it. There will be no assignments during the week of Thanksgiving, being that we're only meeting for 2 days. So when we get back from Thanksgiving break, we'll dive further into World War One. There'll be some type of quote unquote assessment. There's a few things that we need to look at to wrap that up. All right. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.